Please start. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first Free Friday coaching call of June. Great to see so many friendly faces. I love that we get on Zoom because there's no way I would see you guys otherwise because we're all over the country. So, for those people that might be catching on this on the recording, which there's over 900 people that are signed up on our email list to get the recordings, welcome for those of you that are catching this on recording. In addition, welcome to those of you that are catching this live. As always, you can catch the recording and the replay of this on our website, Empire Builders Pro, under the resources tab, if you want to go back and catch anything you might have missed. However, that being said, grab something to write on and something to write with, because I know that today's call is going to be fun and fabulous, and you're going to want notes. And the reason why I know that is because of the person that we have on the call for today. So I'm super excited to jump right in. I'll say this, when people are speaking or on stage and there's this natural thing that happens is if we don't know that person, our minds, whether we're thinking about it or not, go to, who is this and why should I listen to them? And that's always the question. And so human beings by nature, like, hey, we're judgmental. We're always assessing, like, oh, are they going to bring value? Do I like this person? Do I believe what they're saying? There's like all these little things, whether we, want to fess up to that or not, that are going on for each of us. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of background and insight into things that she would probably never say about herself because she's too humble. But the bottom line is she's been in the real estate industry nearly 2 decades. She and her husband Kenny run an incredible team within eXp Realty. She is the founder of Your Creative Hustle, which is a brand strategy practice for building brand for entrepreneurs and for people that are really looking to be authentic to who they are and what their purpose is and how to communicate that into the world. Previously, she was with a company called Remax, which you guys may have heard of, and she built a community of over 30,000 members during that time completely organically. So she knows social media. She's got firsthand experience with social media. She understands how to create communities inside and outside of social media. And her, one of the things that I love about her is that she's not cookie cutter about anything, from the colors on the rooms in her house to her bold personal branding style to her ability to work very specifically one-on-one with people based on who they're at or who they are and bring out what's great about them uniquely for them. She's incredible. So I'm super excited to have her on the call today and happy that she's here to share some of what her experience and knowledge has been that she's gained throughout the years and building the expertise that she has. But before we jump into all of those goodies, Bree, welcome. And would love for you to share, because we're in a community of real estate agents. Number one, what got you into the industry? Number two, why are you still in it? And what are you most excited about right now?
Do you want the candid answers? Well, I'll give you the candid answers. I don't mean to. I'm in real estate because my husband told me to grow up and get a real job. So I answered a really sketchy Craigslist ad, and then ta-da, it snowballed from there. Um, it's been a fun journey. I worked every position in the brokerage except broker of record, and even had a partnership. So loved that. And why am I still in the business? Well, right before you and I met last year, I was on the verge of getting out of the business. And then I have this coach that some of you may or may not know called Jim Knowlton, and he kind of made me stay. And I'm really glad he did because it then snowballed the business to where it is. And I am most excited about sharing what I know because I know as entrepreneurs, we're all just so tired of seeing the things that everyone else is doing and then either having comparison syndrome or assuming we're not doing enough. And so, because I created a community that was geared towards creativity and my own process, it's really nice to be able to give back and teach others that you can be authentically you and shine. So, thanks.
I love that. Well, and I think it's interesting that your path in life has been influenced by really incredible men. Your husband telling you to get a real job,
I
and
know.
then your coach telling you to stick with it.
Yeah. I listen, I don't do well when it comes to certain challenges. I'm like, you said what? Okay. So, yeah,
Yeah, I can imagine that. I would have loved to be a
not at
fly on
all.
the wall in both of those instances. I think it might have been entertaining, perhaps,
Yeah.
for a moment.
So, well,
Yes.
do you want me to go ahead and dive in? I can
Yeah,
go.
let's dive in.
Let's
Let's dive in.
do this share. I have decks
Yep.
because I know you guys can still see me, hopefully. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So I just created this in the sense of it's something I've been percolating and working on for some time. And I have had some people tell me to move forward. And you are the very first audience that is getting to see the new curation of what this is. So thank you so much for that opportunity. Why we're overwhelmed on social media? Well, everyone says we need strategy. And when we dive into building our presence on social media, because let's be real, it's officially the yellow pages now of the new century. We say, yeah, yeah, I'm just going to start posting just solds or about my business and whatever it is. But then we never start with truth. And that's really where we have to dive in. So before strategy, we have truth. And I want to set intentions for this. And so as we go into the intention, please know that there's only one of you in this world. Just like they say we only have one fingerprint and they're all unique. Well, it's the same thing with who you are. Your life experiences, your journeys, where you grew up, the family you have, it's so uniquely you. It's not replicatable. It's not a copy and paste thing. So I'm hoping that this course or session will allow you to give yourself permission. So you can show up as the whole you, not the segmented version of you. And just know that some of this work is inward. So it always does this. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Goodness, there we go. Okay, so setting our intention, I'm going to ask all of you to think about what it is that you want to take away for your social media. Feel free to close your eyes. Matter of fact, go ahead, close your eyes. Close your eyes if you can. And just visualize as I'm saying this. I have to be willing to sit with myself in truth. I have to be willing to look at myself from a different perspective and rewrite the brain loop that I've been telling myself. Now, this exercise is going to require me to see how wonderful I am naturally, how my close family and friends love what makes me me. I have to be willing to revisit this when I need to reflect and have a breakthrough. There is only one of me in the world, just like there's only one of my fingerprints in the world. This is my journey to give myself permission to show up authentically, to shine, to live a purposeful life based around love, because I get to be me and help make a difference in humankind. So go ahead and open your eyes and just know that this is with love. We are here to love ourselves and not be afraid to show up in a digital space with who we are. So, with that being said, people tell me all the time it's either content, time, or visibility when they're coaching with me. It's, I don't have time to make content, or I can't get views on my content, or I can't think of what to come up with. So, what we tend to think is those are three separate problems, but they're not. It's one problem with three masks. So, it's kind of like we're segmenting them, thinking they're separate, but the reality is it's the same thing. We're just stuck on a hamster wheel. So, for content example, you always have something that you want to make, but then it never comes off like the right thing. Think of that as like your perfectionist syndrome of like, oh, well, I don't like it. But do you really not like it, or are you self-sabotaging? And that's an inward question. Or is it because you don't have the clarity around how you actually want to show up on social media? Another one is time. It vanishes and you feel like you're still behind, as an example. Meaning, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then the week goes by, the moment is gone, and you never did it. So now you guilt yourself in feeling like you're behind because you didn't do the one thing that you said you wanted to do the most. But we never look to see why that is. What was the thought or the thing that was preventing us from making it a priority? And then visibility. Because you don't have clarity, you'll say, well, nobody sees any of my stuff anyway, so what's the point? But in the meantime, what you didn't think about is the girl down the street who you see every day when you get your coffee follows you on social media. And she said, oh my gosh, that post you did was great, but you brush it off because you didn't have 1,000 views on it. And you didn't realize, well, that's visibility. Visibility that was so strong that someone stuck with what you saw or what they saw, what they did. And they said, you know what, let me bring it up in a conversation when I see you the next time. For someone to see something that you do and then mention it the next time they see you, that's huge visibility. That's huge community building. It's micro wins. So these all trace back to a single root because they're one problem, not three. And that single root is your content is running from a performing self, not your integrated, authentic self. And what I mean by that is we have curated whatever it is that we think we need to show up as on social media. And it's very performative. It's very like, well, this is what I'm supposed to do because this is what I see. And that's where the cookie cutter comes in. But the reality is when you look at the individuals that just like, how are they getting so many followers? I mean, it's like they're sharing their real life on here. Well, that's because they're showing up with their authentic, integrated self. And it just snowballed in such a great direction that now they've created a whole other pillar in their business just for being them. So remember, performing self doesn't create, it manages. You manage your content, you manage your marketing, you manage your brand. But when you show up as your integrated self, it's like you're 10 toes down and you're grounded in who you are as a core of everything. And that's simply truth telling. And that's just being authentically you. And that's how you build brand loyalty of people that are out there being walking, talking billboards for you and your business. Do we have any questions so far? No? Yeah.
I do have a comment. And the comment is, I love that you're talking about this because uh, my experience of being a human being is there's things I want people to see and there's things I don't want people to see.
Mm,
And that in full judgment, like if I see stuff on social media of people putting a bunch of stuff out there about themselves that I don't want to see that just feels, dramatic, I'm unfollowing that person because I'm like, nah. And then I am thinking about the things that I do want to see, which are things that are going to help me grow, think differently, lift, inspire, educate, whatever. And so I think this is just such a great conversation topic and it has me, thinking of like, okay, like how do we be authentic and be seen, but also be, be
private?
be build a brand that's intentional around growth versus just being seen to be seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's 100% true. And you don't always have those answers in the beginning. You have to sit with yourself and go through the steps in order to self-discover that because it evolves and it changes. And I always say, take it from a scientific standpoint. Like there's no shame or blame around this. People think they know everything that goes on with my life, but the reality is I'm probably one of the most private people you will ever meet. I like to share things that are very lighthearted or I think are aspirational and will help other people. However, I'm very selective with well, a lot of the information that I share. And that's by design because you don't want to share information with people that will have negative energy or will not understand because your energy is sacred just as theirs, and not everyone receives it. So it's a healthy boundary. Um, but you can curate a really powerful brand based on who you are. So by doing that, you realize that your integrated self is one person and you show up in every room. So who you are privately, professionally, spiritually, and socially should equate one voice. And what I mean by that is instead of segmenting, this is my persona of who I am professionally, some of you may remember this, some of you may not. But back in the day, when Facebook was still in the early ages of Facebook, we would have what we called our professional Facebook and then the real Facebook. Especially if you're a millennial, you may have done this. And that professional Facebook was the one that we let the employers see. And so it was like this very curated persona of who we are. And then we had the fun Facebook, where it was like our friends and whatever we did. And then we would change the name or something. So it was really hard to find. And then they couldn't find it. So we segmented ourselves. And that's what I'm talking about is instead of segmenting yourself, when you have this unity of connecting who you are with a common thread line, that's where the magic happens. And that's where you create massive, massive loyalty where people will refer you because they feel emotionally connected to you. So the fragmentation problem is not a volume problem. And a lot of people will think it's a volume problem. And what I mean by that is when you're curating your marketing, you're often thinking, what does this audience expect of me? What sounds professional? What's going to get me the most engagement based on what I think so and so down the street is doing? What does the algorithm want? And that one I hear a lot. It's like, well, the algorithm, they say I got to do this. I'm like, no, just show up consistently as yourself and it will flow. And then what are my competitors are doing? We've all said this to ourselves. We've all thought about it. We've all applied the pressure of what brings with this fragmentation. So when you perform, you're managing these four or five voices along with who and what you are professionally, privately, spiritually, socially, and then it can get muddy. So this is why you're exhausted and you didn't even know you were exhausted. It's holding up multiple versions of yourself at the same time on social media. And that is what feels disconnected because there's not a common thread line and exhausting to you. So, we're not technically overwhelmed because we have too much to say. We're overwhelmed because we're trying to say it in a way that's not really us. It's a fraction of us versus our whole self. So, your integrated self doesn't perform, it's simply you. And here is what performing actually costs you. And then I'm going to give you all questionnaires that you can do in your own time at the end of this. So that way you can go through it and ask some real data points of, okay, what do I want to build for my brand? So performing will cost you content. It feels forced. It feels like you're writing for an imagined audience instead of your actual voice. So when you curate this audience avatar and you're like, okay, well, I'm talking to this individual, but it still feels like I have to, like someone has to drag me to create this content. Well, of course, it's going to be excruciatingly painful some days, if not all days. And then number two is time. Time disappears. Performing burns out three times the energy of you simply being yourself. If you've ever had an opportunity where you've taught a class or you were at a networking event and you felt like you had to be on, when you leave that area and you just get to sit and be with yourself and you feel depleted, that's because you are coming from a performative place and not an authentic place. Because somewhere along the line, society, ourselves, whatever, taught us that this is how I have to show up. And so, therefore, it's exhausting because of the energy that you're putting out towards it. And number three is visibility. It becomes hiding because showing who you are 100% feels too much for one caption and one moment. It feels very vulnerable. It feels like, what if they don't like it? So, the homework is going through these four dimensions to get to the core of why do I feel this way? It's really marketing therapy, is what we're breaking down. And it's mapping out who you are when you're aligned and where you tend to fragment. There's no shame or blame here. So if you catch yourself, if you decide to take on this homework assignment and you catch yourself saying negative things to you, pause, take a breath, and say, this is just data. I'm running an experiment so I can get clarity. The emotions that I'm feeling, maybe you have to sit with them. Maybe you need to explore them. But it's a data collection so you can finally strategize on who you are as one person. So privately would be who you are when no one's around. Like when you're with your parents, your sister, your brother, your partner, who are you? Professionally is who you perform in a work environment. We all have a professional demeanor to us. What does that look like? Spiritually is your values, your why, what grounds you, what just gives you peace in this world. And then socially is how you show up in rooms, relationships, and your community. So when you're hanging out with your friends or you're hanging out, in a very casual setting, what are you like? So these questions are questions that you will all go through on your own. And if we have conversations or anything that you want to talk about with this, please stop me and let's talk about it. The first one is you're going to go through is privately who you are. So two questions I highlighted out of this for you is what do I believe privately that I've never said out loud in my content? And that's a big one. What I'm going to say with all of you, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, is I intentionally self-sabotaged my entire audience over a course of 8 months last year. So I was averaging 300,000 accounts per 90 days on Facebook alone. And I said, you know what? I don't feel like me. I felt like I had curated this very vanilla, this very like catch-all version of myself. And so it took me 2 months to be like, okay, do I really have the courage to do this? I like did a post that was kind of triggering and then I would get backlash and then I did another one. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Because when you've curated an audience and you have a following to intentionally destroy that in essence, it can feel overwhelming. But I have to say it 100% worked. And when I got through the mix of where it came in January, I started to see my numbers from depleting people following me to new people discovering me. So what I did was I intentionally killed what I had built. I intentionally then said, you know what? I'm going to regroup. I'm going to be as authentic as me, and whoever falls off, falls off. And then whoever stays, stays. But here's the beauty of it, right? When you start stepping into knowing authentically who you are and running data tests to try and say, okay, well, I think I want to try and post like this, but I'm not really sure how it lands, you take the emotion away from it. Because if it performs well or if it doesn't, that's fine. It's just data, and I need to see how it works. And then what you also learn is who will follow me and who won't. And what was really cool about it was people who never paid attention to my social media before started engaging and they started leaning in and they started to being like, oh, well, I didn't know that we shared this commonality, but now I do. So it can be really, really powerful. Any questions so far? Any thoughts? Yeah? No?
Was the blowing up the curated audience to do that as a as an experiment or just an organic part of the process to align yourself and that was a byproduct?
It was probably both, to be fair, because I was so frustrated with what I had curated because it did not feel like me. And so I knew that it was going to be a big old mess, no matter which way I did it. And then I had to take a step back and say, okay, how do I want to show up? What do I like showing up with? And then most importantly, can I emotionally handle whatever the naysayers are going to throw at me? Because the way my following was structured, there was a lot of naysaying. I went to a convention over the summer last summer, and some of the individuals there had things to say, and I was like, "Listen, it's fine, it's totally cool, but there's a method to my madness, and if I'm not for you, that's okay. If I am, great. We can still be friends, and I'll still refer things to you, but I don't have to be for everyone, and everyone doesn't have to be for me." And when you think about the people who are really starting to succeed, they're doing videos where they're just, hanging out in their regular clothes. They're doing videos about them gardening, and you're kind of connecting these dots, and you're like, I don't really understand, but I do understand, and somehow I want to follow and watch them more. And so the key takeaway to all of this, as you're going to go through those questions, is going to be, well, did someone remember something I post and bring it up in conversation later on? And if the answer is yes, that's a huge win. If someone is liking my stuff and they're coming back time and time again, that's a huge win because they're already establishing with you that they want to follow and see more content from you. It takes on average over 11 impressions of someone just seeing you to then become familiar with what you do, and then 7 interactions on top of that. So imagine someone, you have to organically show up in someone's feed 11 times before they even get an inclination of who you are or what you are and what you do. Then they have to have some type of interaction with you over 7 times to then fully remember who you are and what you do. The beauty of this is social media gave me my highest paying speaking event for a keynote speaker I've ever gotten in my life, and I had no idea this person was following me. No idea. They didn't engage, they didn't speak. All I knew is one day someone sent me a Facebook message and they said, "Hi, we're putting on an event in Iowa. We want you to come speak." And I was like, "Are you sure? Because I'm not with that brand anymore. I'm with this brand." And they're like, "Hey, yeah, I already know." I was like, "And you still want me to come?" And they're like, "Yeah, what's your price?" And I told them what it would take, and they were like, "Okay, done." And it was huge revelation for me because at that point, I always thought my worth was based on the likes and the engagement. I did not equate the people that are lurking in the background that don't interact. So now I'm running a test where I just did a video this week that says, "Hi, here's the satire that I'm putting out there because I don't take myself as seriously as other professionals. I like to have fun, I like to crack jokes. And if you like this content, please let me know because that's the only way I'm going to know to make more of it." And you know what happened? It was the best performing story I had had in about 3 months. And it was the best interaction I had had on a reel in, I think, all year, other than one that was very personal. So it's my second best performing reel for interactions. And what's cool about that is my husband and I ran into someone at Home Depot 2 weekends ago, and they're like, "I just love all the videos you post. I watch every single one." I was like, "Well, that's great because I had no idea because you never interact. So how am I supposed to know to make more?" But that person, after I asked, guess what they did? They liked it. And I was like, "Oh, the ask worked." So don't be afraid to ask. And don't be afraid to experiment with who you are, what you like, and kind of have a messy, gooey stage because it's all data collection. It's running a science experiment. And with that, I will say is the second questions that's my favorite for private is what parts of myself do I edit out before I post? I did a video one time with Kenny. He's literally eating a plate of food, like a plate of food in the background. And Kenny was so just like, "I don't want to do a video. I'm not in the mood." And when my husband's on the reels, he is the star of the show. He is wholeheartedly the star of the show. It's not me, it's Kenny. And everyone talks to date. They're like, "I really liked that one video of Kenny, and he's just like side-eyeing you, and he's eating this plate of food, and you guys are like talking about real estate or something." And I was just like, yeah, that's our real life. He does that in normal conversations. So people love stuff like that. But if I was so stuck on being a perfectionist, I would have been like, "Oh no, we can't show that. Oh no, that's not the creme de la creme." And I would have never had that feedback because what I did by allowing us to just be us, I created commonality. I created it more in a conversational tone. So I have a Spice Tea acronym. It's called Spice Tea. And if you want, write this down. Every single piece of content has at least 3 aspects to this acronym in it. So S stands for storytelling. P stands for persuasion. I is inquisitiveness. You have to build some type of curiosity. C is for conversation. Having a conversation like you're talking to your BFF goes a long way on social media. E is for education. And then T is for transformation. E is for entertaining, because if it's not entertaining at some point, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm falling asleep. And then you like scroll past. And lastly, since we are all business owners and we're all industry leaders, whether it's a micro community or beyond, authoritative expertise. You are the authoritative expert in whatever it is that you do. I'm sure there is one piece of something in your life that when you are in a room with people, you just have so much information to talk about it. Here's a challenge for you. When you're on social media again, just and you're scrolling and you're looking at content, start to build an awareness around what do I gravitate towards and what do I repel from. And that's going to help give you some clarity if you feel like you're stuck a little bit. I will tell you, every single piece of content will have a minimum of three of these acronyms in it. Every single one. You are never going to find a piece of content that is just entertaining. You're never going to find a piece of content where it's just educational. So I tend to lean into storytelling, entertaining, authoritative expertise, and education. I literally have a suction cup that I put on my sliding glass door because that's where the best lighting is in my house, and I like natural light. I stand in the same spot almost every single time. And I make my videos now, I try and get them at 60 seconds or less because for my algorithm, I do really good with 60 seconds or less. Your algorithm might be different. If you don't have your Facebook account toggled on to professional mode, and this is your personal Facebook account, go ahead and toggle that on because you want to start collecting that data. You want to be able to see, okay, well, I'm navigating and I'm getting, I don't know, 50 views every story that I put out. But when I talk about this one topic, I do well. So earlier this year, I was doing really well with conversational types of content where it was just like, the Facebook little blob of like the colorful backgrounds, and then I'd ask a question. And then everybody has an answer, obviously. So then they would input and say what they want. And then Facebook, because I'm in professional mode, says, hi, our whole goal is to get people to live on the platform more. Do more of that. And so I leaned into it. Facebook is going to tell you, Instagram is going to tell you, TikTok's going to tell you. It's just a matter of understanding what works for you. I do well on Facebook because I had such a large group and I was what was called a power admin on Facebook. That means that I was averaging over 500 ads per month and I had such a high level of posts per day that it was just a constant flow of content within that group. Everyone, including Kim Kardashian or any of these celebrities you follow, look at their different social media accounts. They will always have more followers on one platform than the rest. So you will always do better on one platform than the others. What you do is you use that platform where you perform best as your gateway platform and to leverage that to then pull everyone in other capacities and other ways. But the goal is to build a foundation first. And that foundation is going back to asking yourself these questions all through of who am I? What am I? What do I like? What do I not like? So for professional segment, the one that sticks out the most to me is what topics fill my tank. Casey, what's your favorite thing to talk about when it comes to real estate?
Creating freedom through leveraging
Creating,
legacy.
look how clear you are on that. Do you know, is there anything that if you were to talk about, it would feel inauthentic to you or like you're wearing a costume when it comes to real estate?
Yeah, how to take your production to the next level.
Okay, perfect. That's great clarity. So the fact that you know what works and what doesn't work, that's what I want for each and every one of you. And then my other favorite question of this is if I removed every title, credential, and any industry term that's tied to my name, would people still know it's me? So if you remove all of the beautiful things that you have curated over the last, I don't know, decade or entire career, would people still know it's you if you showed up on social media? For me, last February, the answer was no. Unless it was tied to Kenny, they would have no idea. Because I didn't let people in. It was all real estate. It was all vanilla. It was just very much curated in a way that didn't feel authentic to me. And
Well,
so,
I have a question quick.
of course,
So, what if it's the opposite for you and people in your community only know you for you? And I'm like, have very bad like fear of social media. I'm not good at it. I'm learning it, learning how to get myself out there on it. They would not know me at all from anything social. They would just know me from life. So,
okay. So, my first advice for you, and a rule that we say within our household with our child is fail means first attempt in learning. So it's never that I'm not good at it. No one's ever good at anything right out the gate, right? Mr. Beast, there is a really great book that Jim, my coach, had me read, and it's Your Future Self Now. And it talked about Mr. Beast's very first YouTube video versus what he puts out now. And it's completely night and day. So we all start somewhere, and it's just having the willingness to explore and curate and figure out how do I want to show up and have that common thread line to blend through.
okay. And you said it's called Mr. Beast. Maybe I'll read it.
It's Mr. Beast, My Future Self. Well, I forget who the author is because I did the Audible, but the book is called Your Future Self Now,
Okay.
and he uses Mr. Beast as the example.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so number three is spiritually. And this is just the core essence of who you are as a person. And the two questions that stand out to me in this is what would I refuse to post even if it went viral? We all have that. There is all something that it does. You could not pay me enough to post X. I don't care how great it would work. And then the next one is when a post flops, do I question the platform or do I question myself? And that's a big one to sit with because a lot of times we're putting a stigma or we're putting some emotional tie to something that's inward to us versus just looking at the data because it could be a variety of different things, not have anything to do with you. And then for the social aspect of it, the two questions that stand up for me or stand out for me is what version of me do people respond to most in life? And is that person in my content? If you don't know that right away, it's okay because there might be some work that you have to do first before you get there. And what's really cool about our brains and what I said about the brain loop is the neuroscience behind what we do. It's all a loop. We're just looking to rewire our brains with patterns to help teach us this is for me versus the old narrative of this isn't for me. And so the next question for this last part that I like is what communities, conversations, or relationships never make it into my brand and why? And that one for me, I had to sit with because there was a lot that I was passionate about that I never talked about. That I wouldn't talk about because I was very vanilla and thought that I wouldn't be able to keep the entire audience if I talked about it. And I was right. But what's great is the audience I have now is so much more purposeful and intentional than I ever was before. So, to pull all of this together, questions that you ask yourself, and this will be on the handout as well as the questions, and some of the questions if has a little line to help you go through and see if you need to dive deeper, is on a scale of 1 from 10, How close is my online presence to the person, my inner, like your bestie, your partner, your family, my inner circle actually knows? No shame around that. It's just an evaluation to see how you can bridge the gap. And then number two, if my four selves sat in a room together, would they recognize each other? And if you don't have an answer for that one, that's okay. Come back to it when you do. Sometimes we have to percolate. You have to feed information to your brain. Your brain has to process it because it's a brilliant computer. And then you have to come back to it and say, okay, well, now I have the aha that I needed 6 months ago, but it's fine. I had to go through X, Y, and Z in order to get it. And I'm grateful I'm here now. And then number three is, where am I most authentic online? Where am I least? A really good step with this is when you're going through your social media and you're just perusing through and you're swiping, build that awareness around, I tend to gravitate towards DIY. I tend to gravitate towards this style of content. I tend to swipe past anything that's like this real quick. Then you take it a step further of I will actually like or engage on this type of content, or I'll watch this type of content to the end. If you watch a video to the very end, ask yourself why. What drew you into it? All of that's going to give you clarity to the little different things that you are attracted to and that resonate with you authentically. Because there's so much out there in the world and you can have so many subcategories and sometimes it's hard to cut through the noise. So this will help you to have the awareness to cut through the noise. And lastly, what would I post tomorrow if I knew my audience would love me for being exactly who I am? And that one was the most powerful thing for me. It was really, really scary too, but it was really powerful. And so I want to take a minute before we open up questions and talk more about this and dive into it. And go ahead and scan this if you'd like. It is a handout, a worksheet. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I'm happy to talk about this with you. And I really hope that you can find your clarity. So those are my slides I have for you. And what questions and thoughts do we have?
So Debbie asked, well, I don't know if it was asked or more of a statement about talking about politics and religion.
Ah, so I think you can say anything you want to say if you know how to say it.
Right. And if you can deal with the headaches, because people have loud opinions when it
People have
comes to
loud
those.
opinions, 100%. So that's a question for yourself is if you can deal with the headaches. For me, I kind of wasn't 100% sure how I felt about it, but I will say this. I have a very diverse family. I have every letter of the LGBT in my family from cousins to my child and beyond. And then I have, as you see, Kenny as my husband, I have he's an Afro-Caribbean immigrant, you know. So for me, I never talked about that other than recently when I started going through this. And what I found was it's authentic to my life and it's the people that I love the most. So why am I so quiet and almost ashamed to share it online? And when you curate messaging in a way that's authentic to you, it doesn't matter. Because think about it, we're not trying to be vanilla, right? The people that are really into Fox News don't necessarily like ABC News. So it's a matter of who is that micro audience that I want to capture and how do I want to show up for them? And so you can say anything you want to say, it's just how you say it. And it's a matter of are you coming from a place of love and positivity? Or are you coming from a place of an attack? Yes. Casey?
Yeah, and then I think also like what's the conversation I want to be in with someone based on what I'm going to post, like where I put my attention and energy, it's going to grow. And so what conversations do I want growing? And it was interesting because I had something happen on social media that I've never had happen before, and it was like the most You just like, why did that do, what it did?
Mm.
Um, but it was a post a few weeks back, and I'm like hundreds of views to thousands on anything, and it doesn't, kind of just depending on what it is. But there's one that had, I'm just looking for it, and it was the story of that house that Rick and I didn't buy
Oh.
because we couldn't get a loan for, like, we put all our everything together and we could get a loan for $90,000, which was crazy. But I had over 600,000 views on that, and I had the house in the background and was talking about, like, when it's your time and it's the right thing, the right things always happen. And just interestingly enough, like, I said we, and then now me, I corrected myself, right? Just figuring my audience, whoever follows me, knows that Rick passed away. But then there was all these people that came on that were just like, well, what about Rick? Well, you got what you want, and now it's Rick. So I just was like, block, 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 block.
Isn't
And
it powerful?
yeah, it's super powerful. And then also it was um just thinking from, like, my conflict with that is, do I want more engagement? Do I want that stuff? Do I
Mm.
want to be spending my time,
Yeah.
blocking and posting, and going back to, like, well, why am I doing that anyway? Which is
Mm.
always what I question, right? Because we have a finite amount of time. And so for me, I think it's like just being reflective of what's the purpose of having a social media strategy anyway, and what's the end objective? Is it just to put myself out there? Is it to, like, most people on social media are doing it for business building, in my perspective, in some way, shape,
Yeah.
or form, because there's, click on this, get this, sell this, whatever. Um, or do I just, want to have a brand that people see and know? So yeah, it's a lot to think about.
It's a lot to ponder. And I like that you're going through that because two parts to that. One, there's always haters. It doesn't matter what celebrity you look at, it doesn't matter who it is. Someone always has something to say that's negative. It's up to us to decide how we're going to have an emotional connection with it. And for me, it took time to disconnect from whatever that emotional reaction is. And it doesn't matter. Like, unless you say something about my child, and those are fighting words, I will probably not have an emotional connection to it. I even lean into some of the things now and I play and I'm like, oh, please tell me more. Tell me how you really feel. Like I make a game out of it because I'm entertained and I'm amused. I'm like, you took 30 seconds to a minute or however long, depending on the length of the message, to sit here and curate messaging to me because you were that emotionally connected for whatever reason of whatever is going on in your life to what I posted. So to me, that's like, okay, it says more about them than it does me. And so I'm truly fascinated by that. And then secondly, when it comes to figuring out how do I want to show up, just think about the opportunities that are out there. And when you do show up in a space and you have this clarity on your messaging, the opportunities that come for you, they may never have happened. Like that keynote opportunity I had last summer. I've spoken plenty of times on podcasts and conferences and standing room only environments, but that opportunity would not have come if I did not post on social media. And I had no idea they existed, to be fair. I didn't know they were paying attention as much as they were. So that's why I do it, because one thing has led to the next to the next. And to be fair, I started off social media way back in the day, not even intention to do this. I wanted to own my own brokerage. I wanted to know every position, run my own brokerage, and call it a day. And then one thing led to the next, to the next, to the next, and it's evolved into this. So beautiful things can come out of it. Any other questions? No? We're good? Well, I appreciate all of you. And Casey, you have anything else to add?
Yes. So, just as always, right? When the purpose of these calls is to look at mindset and skill set. So, like, how did your mindset potentially shift or change during the course of today's conversation? And then always from an actionable item, like, what are you going to do next or different on the other side of the conversation today? Like, what's the next best step for you, right? And The Bree, will you put your QR code back up there
Yeah,
again,
of
in
course.
case people didn't catch it the first time, to be able to connect and continue that conversation? Because if there's, I don't remember who the saying is, but it's a great saying. It's for things to change, I've got to change, and for things to get better, I've got to get better. And so I think this is a great, like anything, social media is a part of our world, our life, and how we're going to step into it, utilize it, use it is, or change our strategy with it, right? Scrap what you've been doing and do something totally different, or jump into the pool for the first time, Mallory, you in a different context, right? Or Debbie, like, where have you held back that you're going to choose not to now? Or me, get clear. I mean, there's like all kinds of different things, right? Everybody's in a different place with it and a different relationship with it. But the objective is that we continue to like be in the conversation and grow and make forward steps and forward progress. So thank you, Bree, for sharing your experience and your expertise and a different perspective and shaking things up, and the value that you bring is always immense. And we appreciate your contribution into our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, y'all.
All right, the recording will be up later today. Everyone make it a great day. Thanks.
Freedom.